as we talked about as we started services. For me, and I know many of us, for various different reasons, this has been quite a week. It started, of course, on Sunday with that bittersweet liberation of Doron and Emily and Romy. Many of you have met Lear Susanna from Kfar Aza. Some of us were here together. We met many of the survivors from Kfar Aza. We know that Kfar Aza has hostages who are still in captivity, but Emily and Doron were members of Kfar Aza who were released. And to live it through the texts and the phone calls that Cheryl and I have had with Lear has been incredibly powerful. Doron and Romy, amazing human beings, but Emily has, not because she wants it, has kind of stolen the spotlight. And there's just amazing stories. The latest story was that she refused to be released because she wanted Keith. You met Keith's wife. Keith's wife was here with us, another member of Kfar Aza, and Emily said, "Send him home and don't send me." Now, she lost that battle, but there's also, I hate to say it's funny, but they told Emily that in order to be released, she had to wear the color red, which is the color of her rival football team. And Emily is tough, and Lear will tell you that. Emily's response to Hamas was, "Nope, I will not." Do you remember what color she appeared in when she was set free? It wasn't red. It was green. She got her way on that one. Tough woman. I don't think we're going to be done seeing her more. And listen, Doron and Romy are also incredible, but Emily's spirit is incredible. Their release was incredible, but their release that day was absolutely exhausting. This week has been exhausting because of that. And then we're all worrying on pins and needles about the release now of 19-year-old Liri Albag, 20-year-old Karina Ariev, 20-year-old Daniela Gilboa, and 20-year-old Nama Levy. Now, Liri and Karina and Daniela and Nama were all soldiers at the military base. We've seen some of the horrific images of them on October 7th. We've seen troubling signs of life videos from Hamas from three of them, Liri and Karina and Daniela. And many of us, unfortunately, know Nama because she is that petrified little girl who's dragged out of the Jeep with her arms tied beside her, with blood on her pants and thrown into the Jeep. We pray. What's getting me through is this image of Nama's mother who has fought so hard just wrapping her arms around her little girl in just a couple hours because the release is coming up. This week in American politics, between the inauguration and the changes, and I don't want to say his name anymore, but Elon Musk, about the fires in California, which have started up again, it's so easy right now to feel lost with everything going on. And I admit I have felt that way this week more than I have felt in weeks. And it's been 15 months since October 7th. But this particular week was just hard. The world continues to feel upside down. Our country feels like a roller coaster ride. And I know I'm not alone. Many of us, doesn't matter where we are on the political spectrum, doesn't matter how closely connected we are to Israel, many of us are just in a funk. So I got to thinking about what our tradition teaches us about moments like this. When the current situation we find ourselves in makes hope feel so far away. What are we supposed to do in those types of situations? Because we know that Judaism doesn't tell us just to curl up and feel sorry for ourselves. But there are times we would just love to do that, especially on these cold days, right? We forget in 2025 that we as a people we've been in this dark place before. I'm not saying necessarily us in our lifetime, but we as a people going back centuries, we've been here before. We've lived through as a people upside down worlds, and we've ridden many roller coasters, not for fun. Our ancestors have a lot to teach us about getting through these challenging times. If we turn to the book of Lamentations, which supposedly was written by the prophet Jeremiah, who was writing in the 500s before the year 0, BCE, so 2,500 years ago. He was writing when the first temple, the center of Jewish life in ancient Israel, the only thing that remains is that foundation wall, the Kotel, the Western Wall, still the holiest place in Judaism. He was writing when that temple was destroyed, 586 BCE. And he writes, Yitain ba'afar pihu ulai yesh tikva. Let one put his mouth to the dust. Ulai, perhaps, maybe, yesh tikva. There is hope. It's a confusing sentence. When the temple was destroyed, the Jewish people lost everything. And I mean everything. The temple was the synagogue, if you will. It was very different than a synagogue, but it was like the synagogue for all the Jewish people. There wasn't prayer there. There was animal sacrifice. That's a whole discussion in and of itself. But it was everything to the Jewish people. And it was gone, wiped out. The Jewish leadership wiped out. And on top of it, the people were exiled. They were kicked out of their homes. There was death and there was destruction all around them, and they were forced into a new home. It was as if they were putting their mouths into the destruction, into the dust of what remained of their lives. And while our own struggles and challenges these days are different than the destruction of the temple more than 2,500 years ago, I think many of us can relate to this idea of feeling so low, so down, that we're putting our mouth to the dust. Yiten ba'afar pihu ulai yesh tikva. Let one put one's mouth to the dust, and ulai, maybe, perhaps, it just might be that yesh tikva, there is hope. This word ulai, it's kind of this magical word in this sentence, and it just means maybe, perhaps, it just might be. Jeremiah is teaching us something with this word ulai, something super important about how Jews are supposed to look at hope. There's no hope in the dust on our lips, in the dust all around us. And by dust, that can be whatever is the mishagas, the craziness of the day. Hope, Jeremiah is teaching us, is not grounded in how we feel about the world right now. And that's a good thing, because the world's a mess. And there are moments where, except when I look at our 3 B'nai Mitzvah, right? And our 2 B'nai Mitzvah from last week, we're missing one. Oh, no, there he is. There are times I look around and it's hard to feel that hope. And there was little for our ancestors to feel hopeful about when their world was destroyed 2,500 years ago. But hope is the ulai, the Hebrew ulai, the maybe, the perhaps, the potential, the possibility, the real possibility that, my gosh, things might, maybe, perhaps, ulai, get better. For us today, ulai, in a few hours, we'll turn on our computers or our televisions, and God willing, we're going to see Liri and Karina and Daniela and Nama wrapped in the arms of their parents. And we're going to see their parents who we have seen the pain on their faces. We're going to see their parents relax in a way that we have never known them. And this is hope. This is hope that's worth pursuing. Right now, our mouths are in the dust, but perhaps with those images, there's hope. The late Rabbi Jonathan Sachs taught Judaism is a sustained struggle, the greatest struggle ever known against the world. Watch what he says here. Against the world that is, in the name of the world that could be or should be, but is not yet. He teaches that Judaism is about the struggle through today, because tomorrow, ulai, just might be better. Judaism pushes us to think. While we have dust on our lips now, we must struggle to push forward and see that there is more before us that could be better. There is a world before us that is not yet here, that God willing could be better than today. Our ancestors looked around 2,500 years ago when the temple was destroyed and everything was gone. They didn't just have dust on their lips, they were covered head to toe in dust. Everything they owned was dust. And yet, as Jeremiah says, they managed to think perhaps there's going to be hope. And that's amazing. I imagine many of our grandparents, our great-grandparents, thought similar thoughts as they fled pogroms, as they were expelled from their homes, as they were released from the camps. Ulai yesh tikva, perhaps there's something better. Isn't it what pushed so many of them to come here, to survive? Our experiences over the centuries have made us think this way. The Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai wrote in one of his poems called In the Old City. In the old city, we are holiday weepers, engraving our names on every stone, because we are infected by hope. Infected by hope is such a powerful idea. Our experience from the earliest of days has pushed us to think maybe tomorrow is going to be better. And you know what? Not always, but most of the time, our hope has become our reality. Just look at the state of Israel. It was created because of hope. I think about a phone call I got 2 days ago from one of my bat mitzvah kids. She's now in her 30s. And then I got another call from another one of her friends, telling me about one of their friends who also became bat mitzvah here, who was struggling and was posting some very emotional messages online. And so because of these young adults who are all over the world, including this kid who's struggling, they got me and they themselves reached out to this struggler. And today his post was, basically, I didn't realize it yesterday, but today I'm surrounded by a lot of love because so many people reached out. That was pretty amazing. Yehuda Amichai also wrote a poem called Ein Yahav. Yahav is a moshav, a farm in the desert in Israel today. It's about an hour and a half in both directions from Beersheba in the north and Eilat in the south. Ein Yahav goes like this. A night drive to Ein Yahav in the Arava desert. A drive in the rain. Yes, in the rain. There I meet people who grow date palms. There I saw tamarisk trees and trees of illusion. There I saw hope, barbed as barbed wire. And I said to myself, that's true. Hope needs to be like barbed wire to keep out despair. Hope, Amichai says, must be a minefield. For Yehuda Amichai, hope is not something beautiful. First, hope is something that's threatened. And he says it. Hope is threatened by despair. And we know that. Sometimes we live that. Hope is not, as I've said in other sermons, about unicorns and cotton candy trees. Hope, Amichai says, is a minefield, bordered by dangerous barbed wire. Why? Because of everything that we struggle with today. Because of what our ancestors struggled with 2,500 years ago when the temple came crashing down. Because of everything we have struggled with as a people for all of these centuries. All the stuff that turns the world upside down. The madness, the hate, the fear, the evil actors who kidnap and torture innocent souls. All the stuff that can make us feel that hope is really, really far away, if not gone from the face of the earth. Even though, as Amichai says, we're infected with hope, despair can still suck the hope right out of us unless we protect it, unless we secure it, unless we build huge barriers between it and the ugliness of the world. And Amichai suggests that we need to do that. So how in the world do we do that? Because we can't walk around with barbed wire sweaters. My grandmother wouldn't have made them. You can't buy them at the store, and that's not a way to live. And tonight I realize one way to do this is to think about, right now, Liri and Karina and Daniela and Nama, the 4 girls who are going to be released. And Ulai, perhaps, that potential that at this time tomorrow, we'll have images of them in the arms of those we love. Ulai yesh tikva. Perhaps there's hope. In that ulai, in that potential, there's our hope. In the hope that the hostage deal continues to move forward and more captives will be released, yesh tikva, there's hope. The late Rabbi Hugo Grin was a child in Auschwitz. And in the camp during Hanukkah, his father made a Chanukiah, a Hanukkah menorah. On the first night of the holidays, his father had saved some margarine to melt and use as a source of light. He had a wick and it would serve as a source of light. And Hugo, a little boy, looked at his father and he was very angry. And he said, "Father, how could you use that margarine, food that we need to survive, just to observe a holiday, just to light a light?" And his father responded with words that the rabbi said he never forgot. "My child, it's true that a human being cannot live 3 days without water, and we cannot live more than 3 weeks without food. But we cannot live for 3 minutes without tikva, without hope. Ulai yesh tikva." Tonight, hold on to the possibility that tomorrow is going to be better. Hold on to the possibility that there is hope. Let's bring them home. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.